Nobody should feel embarrassed or ashamed for being a religious, spiritual person.
Literally everyone here is just talking about the exceptions, like no shit, there are bad people in every group imaginable. Y'all would rather amputate all of your limbs than say something nice about religion, I swear. I'm agnostic and I only know one other person who is agnostic. I can't say anything about my belief system without being demonized for my belief system. I feel traumatized and damaged from being raised in a strict religious family, and I hate religion for many reasons, but I also believe everyone has the right to believe whatever the fuck they want. I think that it's like a survival tactic, just an opinion, and some people need the idea of God or a belief system to truly keep themselves going. I know my mother would personally go down a dark path and kill herself if she didn't have Christianity. I don't like the belief system and I think it's silly on my end, but I value that it helps keep her alive and so I tend to stay quiet on our disagreements. Her life is more important than my opinion on what she believes. She needs it, so I'm glad she has her beliefs. You shouldn't be ashamed for being religious. You should be ashamed for pushing it on people. Exactly. I myself am religious and it's okay to want to spread the word of your religion, but it should always be respectful. You ask them if they're open-minded about. If they aren't, then respect it and move on. If they are, go for it. I wish more people accepted that into their philosophy. This is what I have always said. I am a religious individual that found my faith on my own, yet when people within my church ask who or how many people I tried to bring to church and I say, none, they look at me like I'm crazy. I enjoy talking about religion and beliefs with different people, and if someone showed interest, then sure, tag along, but I'm never going to push it, it's not who I am. Everything should be open to mockery. Mockery is one method we have of removing wrong ideas from our memeplex. If an idea is robust, and deserves to stand, it will withstand mockery and survive. If it doesn't, then it will crumple like anything fragile will under pressure. Again, everything should be subject mockery, and nothing should be subject to censorship, which is what banning mocking is. I think you are misunderstanding the razor of reason with the neck-bearded dribble most commonly found on the internet this post is talking about. Most of the time when people are being mocked for religious beliefs, it is not from a place of genuine depth but a misplaced belief in one's own depth. Agnosticism is the only mature and honest place to stand, admission of ignorance. The fact you think mockery is an effective method of creating change, to me, is shallow at best and probably the least effective method of cleansing the memeplex. Although I agree you should have the freedom to mock others, I won't view that kind of behavior as genuine depth, but rather the simple cawing of a noisy bird out of its depth. I think you're right about the neckbeard people wanting to feel superior. I don't think mockery is the right term. Every idea should be open to criticism, otherwise you wind up with stupid ideas like divinely appointed monarchies, that everyone goes along with because that's how they've always done it. This was basically the mo in Europe for centuries. Thankfully, Western Europe decided to investigate this idea further. The fact you think mockery is an effective method of creating change, to me, is shallow at best and probably the least effective method of cleansing the memeplex. What do you think would be a better method? I think you have to meet people where they are and use empathy to create a connection strong enough to overcome the dissonance created when a bad idea is being confronted. I like to use the fact that all religious texts are subject to interpretation. Many people will outright reject what they see as a conflicting opinion, but will entertain the same idea packaged in a more familiar way. Holding people to values works well, and pointing out to them how their actions, beliefs violate one or more values they claim to have. Genuinely being a happy and fulfilled person goes a long way to establishing trust. Nobody wants to listen to someone who seems angry at the world. Keeping in mind that all people are not capable of the same levels of thought and critical thinking. To me, mocking the religious is a bit like going around saying that children should be mocked for being children so that they grow into healthy adults. It's just bad logic and only reinforces a negative image of the enlightened person as an antagonizer out to persecute them. I remember saying that mockery was a tool. I did not say it was the best nor the only tool. If everyone in the world were intellectuals like yourself, then we wouldn't need people like Ricky Gervais. But that's not the world we live in. One job can require different tools in different circumstances. I think if we are talking entertainment, then sure, mockery can be fun. I am saying Ricky Gervais is a funny comedian but is probably not doing much to change the minds of religious people. I would also argue that mockery, while sometimes funny, can create a culture of exclusion that closes the doors of understanding rather than open them. Mockery tends to make people defensive and more likely to shut down rather than engage in meaningful discourse. So maybe in this case I think the hammer is being used so much the finish on the wood has been ruined and we have to start the project over. And when people shut down, and refuse to enter the discourse, it is an open indication that they cannot defend their opinion, and it does not stand the test, and this is how things should fade away, as religion, well, faith anyways, should. It's a natural pressure on bad ideas to keep them from being out there and spreading too much. Like the way good people's attitude toward Nazism keep most Nazis from being too open about their beliefs. We live in a natural world, and there will always be collateral damage. All of nature's self-correction mechanisms involve collateral damage. Stop worrying that someone might be offended. They need to overcome their fragility more than they need your protection. I think you are also making another fallacy here. A believer may indeed do a shit job defending their point of view. That doesn't make their point of view wrong. Fundamentally, I cannot find a worldview that does in not some way invoke faith. Ultimately, I don't think that the comment section is the ideological battleground you are thinking it is. Most real change happens through longer and deeper exchanges like lengthy conversations or books. You are trying to win the game of who's right. I am seeking to deepen understanding. By all means, play that game if you want to. You will win every time, same as everyone else. If you don't understand something enough to defend it, then what right do you have to publicly claim it's true? Without embracing self-deceit, you must be agnostic about it. If you do have enough understanding to defend it, then regardless of your ability to do so, i.e., not well spoken, then you should not be so fragile, as you know others with your beliefs are able to, and will defend it. But as fewer and fewer are able to defend it well, the more stigma should be attached to the belief and the more shame should be borne by those that espouse it. Probably part of why religion has been around for hundreds of years. Today, sex, drugs, material needs, narcissism, are all becoming a huge part of our culture, and as those things become more prevalent, we see a huge push against religion. Religion being a moral compass yet painted as an evil, ill-intended institution by the media. I'm at the level of embarrassment where I'm fine with saying I'm a Christian, but I like to express that I'm not one of those strict, fundamentalist, hateful, or flowery Christians. They're the reason I feel any embarrassment at all. I'm interested, and I mean that genuinely, not trying to be disrespectful, how you justify religious belief without falling into the fundamentalist beliefs. It seems to me, and please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, that the more extremist members of a religion tend to be those with the more literal interpretation of whatever scriptures that religion follows. They stick more rigidly to whatever teachings the religion offers. I don't quite understand how one can pick and choose which parts of the religion they want to follow, when the underlying message of pretty much all religions appears to be, follow these rules or you're damned for all eternity. Jesus said, love the Lord your God with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. This fulfills all of the law and the prophets. When we lead with law, then we are hypocritical assholes who push people away. When we lead with love, we are fulfilling all of the law. The law was given to show that we don't measure up and we need Jesus. People mistake the law for something we have to follow to a T. We just simply can't. We cling to God and love Him. We allow Him to change our desires. Grace is for our failings. I think that is where fundamentalists get it wrong. They worship the law and try to get others to follow when they themselves can't follow it. I grew up very conservative, and this is what God is teaching me lately. The book of Galatians talks about living by the law and how it doesn't work. Paul also stated in 1 Corinthians chapter 13 that love is supreme. You're absolutely right that fundamentalists have a literal interpretation of scripture that ignores linguistic, figurative, historical, and cultural context, and common sense. For example, many fundamentalists believe women are to basically submit to their husbands and have kids. That is not the case. 1. The culture back then was different. 2. If a woman, or either spouse, is told to do something they're uncomfortable with or is straight up wrong, they have every right to say, no. 3. I personally believe it is perfectly fine for a married couple to not have kids. Some can't afford them, some aren't mentally well or ready to do so, maybe they don't live in the best environment, and some simply just don't want kids. One thing that has helped me form my beliefs is common sense, and I think it is both dumb and dangerous to act as if it is mutually exclusive to Christianity. It is not. Stuff like this is why I prefer to have non-Christian friends, although I do have Christian friends whom I'm lucky to have and love so much. Edit. Grammar. Point 3. Edit 2. I also want to bring up that these Christians I don't like basically trust their pastor rather than do the research on their own and understand that they're not going to get everything right or say something that they agree with. It's gone to a point that I don't like to listen to sermons at my church, and I come from a non-denominational church that would not support fundamentalism. You gotta take this up with the people who lead nutty religious groups or stand by when religious groups do hypocritical and frankly, evil things. I have tons of respect for a number of spiritual people because their personal beliefs don't dictate how they respond to evidence, scientific discovery, or the feelings, safety of those who get targeted by religious ideology. I agree. I've seen more non-religious people get at others for praying if a bad situation happened, but then say don't judge me for my beliefs. Woman shrugging, it's hypocritical. No one shall judge each other for what they believe in, it goes both ways. It's fine unless you're excluding or harming others with your beliefs. Thank you. I am a religious person and I'm not scared to say it. But I'm also not afraid to cut people out of my life if they can't respect me. Everyone makes the argument of, well, y'all believe in religion and not science. Sis, sit down please. I believe in both. My religion has stated things that science is just now figuring out. I believe in science, medicine, and God. I typed this out while sitting in a hospital room. The nurses have given their meds and I thank them. Now I have my book sitting next to me. It's for me. I'm not preaching to the nurses. My beliefs have nothing to do with anyone else, so why y'all suppressed? And before some of you come for me, I never randomly talk about religion because I simply don't want to. But I live my life by it. People ask why I do things a certain way or refrain from other things, and that's when I tell them for religion reasons. If they ask more, I explain, otherwise we move on. But even with this small encounter, some people will find a way to show their distaste in what I choose to do. My biggest pet peeve ever is when people say, oh, you're religious so you don't believe in science. That doesn't make a lick of sense. If anything, science helps keep religion in check. If a certain religion is truly the correct one, then science shouldn't take away from it. I know nowadays, due to the political climate in the US, that Christians are anti-science, but a true Christian not anti-science. As long as scientific discoveries are true and genuine, there should be no reason that it undermines your religion if you believe it to be the correct one. Yeah, man. As long as you let me believe what I want, I'll let you believe what you want, as long as you don't use it as an excuse to harm others. I will say, however, if you know there's something out there, by definition you aren't agnostic. I take umbrage with the term agnostic as a whole because it implies atheists know there's no God. Most atheists believe that it's impossible for anyone to know whether there's a God or not with our current understanding. Atheists by definition don't not believe in a supreme being. Agnostics neither believe or disbelieve in God because they believe that knowledge is unattainable. Not sure what someone who believes in God but doesn't subscribe to any specific religion would be called. Everyone are entitled to their own beliefs and opinions, as long as it doesn't overshadow science and the scientific method. No one knows everything, and I think the people that are most aware of how ignorant they are scientists. For every question answered, a ton of new questions arrives. I respect people that believe in the afterlife or that the soul lives on, but my own personal belief is that people saying that says it for the sake of comfort. I personally believe that when we die, we simply die. The body starts breaking down and decomposing. And then not after long, it gives energy to new life to grow. Isn't that beautiful? The circle of life. A personal choice which shouldn't be questioned. If your beliefs can't withstand simple questioning, should you continue to believe? I think the op was talking about questions like the one you just asked. People debating them when they mention that they're a Christian or any other religious belief. Even if a person mentioned that they're an atheist, I wouldn't debate unless they are being disrespectful. You get me? Depends on whether your religious practices positively impact your life and others through your actions. I'd say Muslims praying 5 times a day does not improve their lives. Even Buddhists don't meditate that much. I just find it all pitiful. I am atheist and I hate God, and I'm still here. If you support organizations that try to take rights away from individuals and/or abuse people, you should feel ashamed. People get upset when religious people attempt to make their beliefs law or required teachings for all. In the whole, a few bad apples, defense is BS. Religious organizations are huge financial entities that use their power and money to escape prosecution and rightful punishment for crimes they commit. Everyone is free to believe what they like, but if you try to use that belief to contradict provable science and influence others to do the same, as I see again and again, then yeah, you absolutely should be both embarrassed and ashamed. Being religious is absolutely fine, but using religious defense to justify homophobia, transphobia, or using religion to deprive women of bodily autonomy and disallow abortions is not okay at all. I realize there are bad apples among every group, but I think most Christians don't hate or fear gay or trans people. There is a very intentional agenda push that disagreeing with something is somehow the same as hating a person or labeling them a bigot or homophobe. They are two completely different things. As a Christian, I try to love everyone. Not just the ones I agree with. That's what the Bible teaches us. I can love a person but disagree on their choice of partner, in the exact same way I can love a person who cheats on their taxes. Love the sinner, not the sin. Believing in nonsense should be a source of shame. There's nothing noble about believing truth claims without evidence. The issue is entirely perspective though. You and I both think every claim ought to have rock-solid evidence. The devout think this about everything except their own religion. They are never not going to make an exception for their religious beliefs. Flailing our arms and being tactless assholes on the internet won't change their minds. I went through a phase like this, where I was constantly pissed about religious silliness being pushed into my life, until I realized that it is just one more irrational idea, which is something we all have. Yes, I think they're missing out of a small part of how the world and reality actually are. Yes, I think most of it is a huge waste of time, outside of the charity and community that religions often create, which could be created without religion. I live in a red state in America, at the northern edge of the Bible Belt. Being an atheist is so countercultural here, I'd rather hang out with the Christians than the weirdos who agree with me on this one point. Don't kill, don't steal, respect your parents, don't lie, don't cheat on your partner, treat others the way you want to be treated, put others first, give to those in need. Religion is about moral guidance. You yourself subscribe to religious principles whether you like it or not, they're ingrained in our culture. I automatically take a defense against anyone who says they're religious because I'm LGBTQ, and I've met too many religious people who are homophobic and use their religion as a justification for that. I do know that there is something out there. Something that no living thing know about. You mean you believe there is something out there, and if they did, this world would be a different place. Life doesn't just end there. The brain dies. But does the soul travel somewhere? There has to be something. Everything can't just stop there. That seemed more like a hope, beautiful, but still just a hope. Almost every time someone doesn't like something I nope, they go into my account and see that I'm into demonolatry, and try to make fun of me for it. It gets old for sure, but lets you see the ones who can't actually back their argument or opinion. Although some people don't need to feel ashamed for believing in something larger than themselves, others who believe Jesus is Lord, Xenu owns their soul, or every other BS garbage religion, have every right to feel shame. That shame can be an asset if it leads to growing out of the belief in those fairy tales. It's not a personal choice. It's not something you choose, since you can't choose to believe or not believe. I'd like to believe that I'll live in eternal bliss after death, and that that's a good thing, but I can't. I don't have choice in the matter. Also, these personal choices influence the way you act, and clearly religion in general has huge influence in the world, a lot of it detrimental to society, like terrorism, homophobia, fear of weed, pro-lifers, racism, and so on. Religion has been around since the beginning of time. Religions are the foundation of so many cultures because they provide people with moral rules, codes to follow and lead a happy life. Most people subscribe to a religion because of their parents and continue to pursue it because it gives them guidance. The idea that religious people go around pushing their beliefs on people is really annoying. About 75% of people in the US subscribe to some kind of religion, and the vast minority go around pushing it on others, yet it's those people that receive a huge amount of scrutiny in the media. Whether you realize it or not, religion has a huge effect on your moral code too. It's deeply ingrained in our culture. And as a Christian, the Christians that go around condemning people for being gay, agnostic, etc. aren't practicing Christianity at all, they're doing the opposite. The Bible teaches us to welcome those people with open arms and treat them with the most compassion, since they need God's love more than ever. You should, however, feel embarrassed when you vomit your religion or beliefs down others' throats unbecomingly. Also, if you don't believe in evidence through observation, science, as a primary way of developing knowledge and refuse to wear masks, etc., then you don't deserve to get ventilators, etc. I'd have a lot more respect for religion if they actually practiced what they preached. Where were all those religious voices when Trump was doing shitty and immoral things to people who didn't fit his voting demographic? No sympathy whatsoever. Hope, faith. Ridiculous ideas deserve ridicule. Claims without evidence should be dismissed without evidence. You can attack ideas without attacking the person, it depends on who is having the conversation. As an atheist, I personally don't like being threatened by the religious or their God.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like the video. And if you are new, subscribe and click on the bell icon.